Hello, hello, Tammy Goen here, and you are on my channel, Surviving to Thriving for Highly Sensitives. And in this space, I like to just go deep on a little bit of everything about high sensitivity so I can help you to really go from potentially struggling with overwhelm and feeling like you are just so different and you need to change, to really embracing your trait, learning more about it, being able to celebrate your sensitivity because it really is an amazing gift, and living life as though it is at your superpower, which it is, and being able to really thrive. So that is our focus for this hour-ish each week. You can catch my other episodes on the page below, of course. And today I'm kind of wrapping up the month talking about calming the nervous system. And I have talked about how and why that is so important for highly sensitives, because we just are, these sponges that take in all of this stuff constantly, and our nervous systems get really amped up. We start up a little higher than most people's anyway, and then so much stuff is coming in, we just get overloaded and can get overwhelmed, exhausted, sick, all of those things that we really don't want to be. So I'm glad you've joined me today to kind of wrap that up. What I would like to talk about today is that idea of really connecting with ourselves in terms of, like our body, our felt sense, what's going on, and being able to listen to our intuition. So as highly sensitives, we know that we're really good at connecting with other people, the journey that they're on, their experiences, their energy, and being able to help them and kind of know when things are maybe a little bit off, when they could really use some help. Probably a lot of people come to you to help you make decisions and decide if what they're doing is okay or if there's a better way. And probably you have a pretty good idea on how to help them through that, how to support them, because you can kind of pick up all of the parameters involved in that situation. You can kind of get that sense of, yeah, this maybe isn't, really helpful or healthy. And then you probably have a good way, a compassionate way of walking them through that and helping them to see what your view is, and whether that's, what they agree with or not, that's another story. But you're probably pretty good at recognizing that is a skill that you have. And that sometimes, whether it's energetically, you walk into a room and you feel that something's off. Sometimes you just have that knowing, like a, clair audience or clair cognizance, just kind of knowing. Sometimes, our clairs tend to be much stronger than non-highly sensitives. And so sometimes you can just get a sense of what people need, what a situation needs outside of even the energetic piece of it, because of that intuition. We're really tuned into that. But in this society, we're not really led to listening to our intuition all that much. And as a highly sensitive, you probably spent a lot of your life hearing that the way you were seeing things, the way you were approaching things was not okay. And you needed to just kind of quiet that down and stuff it. And then after a while, you would learn that I should not be paying attention to that because it doesn't serve me. And what I need to do is focus externally, and all of those messages coming in, what society is expecting, what my family is expecting, all of those things that kind of tweak things so that we stop listening as well, quite often, to that intuition, even though it's super strong. And that can create a real imbalance and a conflict, a constriction in things, because we have this innate ability to pay attention and to know what's going on. And then at the same time, we're saying, yeah, but I can't listen to that. Or if I do, I'm going to get these results. People are going to say these things or think these things of me. And so we really end up quite often, not everyone, but it's pretty common that we stop listening to that and we go to our heads, right? And, our heads are great. Our thinking mind is there for a reason, and we do see things really well. We perform well in work usually. We have a lot of reasons to trust our brains, but at the same time, what's really more important and stronger is that inside, that instinct, that intuitive place that really does know things on such a deep level, but we just don't listen. So one example that I'll use, for myself looking back a couple of years ago. It was actually at the beginning of COVID. And I had someone that I had connected with previously. We kind of reconnected. And so we were working on trying to build a friendship. And I kept getting these niggling sensations, these like, oh, I don't know if this is right for me. And I didn't listen to that because, of course, I wanted the person to like me, but more, I wanted to not ruffle any feathers, wanted him to be okay and not have hurt feelings, all of those things that is so common for highly sensitives to be worrying about so much, to our own detriment often. And so I continued to point things out. I didn't just sit back and be a doormat, because I've, fortunately worked through things enough that I don't do that. But I did keep giving the benefit of the doubt way longer than was necessary before I finally realized, I need to not do this. But I would send, messages or talk or whatever and say, hey, this isn't working for me. I need this instead. Or, I've explained what for example, my schedule is. And yet then you sent me a message asking if I would join you on this thing. And I had just told you, that I was not available. So I would get frustrated. Eventually I started to become resentful. You might connect with that pretty well. If we don't speak up, then we can often end with this feeling of really deep resentment, and we feel our feelings deeply, so we can be really resentful, and that can come out in ways that are not very helpful for you or everybody else involved. So anyway, in this example, I finally was able to say, you know what, this is not working for me. I've tried these different things. I've been very compassionate. I understand this person's in a really rough spot and could use some support, and yet I've tried to do that in a way that also serves me, and I was not getting that. And so when I finally quieted down and asked myself, what should I do about this situation? And it was very clear to me, like it's, been screaming at me the whole time, I'm sure, but I finally listened and heard, this is not a workable situation. This is not something that's healthy for me. And so I had to come to terms with that. And I say it that way because we do have that hard time of offending anybody or having someone result in, a situation result in someone with hurt feelings. We can release that idea that we cause anybody feelings because everyone's in charge of their own feelings. So it's not a causal thing, but still we don't like people to, to feel bad because we feel it. So we don't want that to happen. So we usually try to soften everything and make things work. And it just doesn't always work. So I finally was able to listen to that. And then, of course, it took me a couple of days to process that and figure out how I was going to do it. But I was committed to myself, to making sure that I took care of myself and said, no, set this boundary. So I finally did that. I connected with him and I said, you're a really great person. This is just not working for me. There's a variety of reasons. I'm not going to go back into it and rehash everything, but I'm sorry, this is just the way it's going to be. So I just to acknowledge that that's the way it is. And so I did that. And what I can say as an example of really listening to your intuition is that suddenly I was so relieved. I had this amazing sense of pure relief. Yes, this is what I was supposed to do. And I hadn't been listening to it, but now that I did, it was so obvious. And I felt, of course, I was sad and missing that connection or that potential of that connection, what it could have been, right? So a lot of times we avoid losing something or changing or shifting something because of what it could be. And we keep hoping. But if we really listen to our internal compass and really check in, we just know, yeah, it would be nice, but it's not going to happen. And so, yeah, as soon as I did that, I just knew, I'm like, oh, good. Thank you for telling me. And I'm glad that I finally listened. And when I followed through with it, it was perfect. It was, again, I had to deal with the sadness and knowing that he was going to, feel hurt or disappointed or sad or something. I mean, I'm not in charge of his feelings, but it was tricky. But that it's all about that listening to that sense, even if it doesn't make sense up here. So sometimes we get that hit where we know something isn't quite right, but if someone asks, well, why don't you want to do that? And you can't really come up with the right words, right? You just say, well, I can't really explain it, but this is just what I need to do. So sometimes that's what we need to do when we're trying to listen to our intuition, is get out of that second guessing routine, out of the, well, these are the things I know, and that doesn't fit with what I'm feeling, and realize that those things happen because of our thinking brain and because we want everything to fit together. But the truth and the reality is really what we're feeling in here. So getting used to doing that is really, really powerful for us, for everyone, but especially for highly sensitives that have that tendency to want to make everyone happy and take care of other people's feelings and such. So I hope that kind of gives you an understanding of where I'm coming from on that, and that story that you can maybe connect with something that you've done similarly in the past. So it's really helpful. I have talked in the past, can't recall if it was actually on this program or not, but probably, that it's really helpful to do a check-in where you check in with yourself every day and just say, how am I doing and what do I need? And that's really, really helpful. A lot of HSP, therapists and coaches will talk about that. And it's really, really key for reminding us that we need to stop and check in, because we're focused on everybody else a lot of times and what's going on out there. So when we do stop and check in with ourselves, then it's really powerful if we are then able to listen. So if we say, okay, how do I feel about this situation? Say you need to make a decision, yes, no, I'm going to go do this or not do it. And your brain is telling you, well, these are all the reasons you really, really should, and everyone's going to be upset if you don't, and et cetera. But if you check in with yourself, you say, okay, if I do this, how does that feel? And probably if it's not the right thing, you'll immediately feel some kind of apprehension viscerally. Something in your body will say, maybe your gut will tighten up, maybe your jaw gets tight or your shoulders come up, whatever it is, your body has that reaction to, not really great for me. And then if you say, okay, if I opt out of this, even though others might be disappointed, and then your body will probably give you some kind of signal, even if it's like a non-signal, like, oh, I just feel nothing, or I feel very relaxed and relieved with this idea. Okay. And then you know that that's really what's best, even if your brain tries to contradict it, even if other people are disappointed, or they say, oh, no, there's no reason for that, you should do this. But your felt sense, your body, your intuition is saying otherwise. And it's so, so important to listen to that. So what I would like to do today is take you through a body scan. And the idea for this is just to get you used to being in touch with what's going on with your body without having to change anything, without second guessing, without anything being right or wrong, no judgment, just being able to be in that place, acknowledge and give voice to your body, your reaction, and your intuition. So wherever you are, if you can do this, if you're working, this might not work, but you can watch this later. Go ahead and get in a really comfortable position. You want your posture to be nice and straight so everything flows nicely. Close down your eyes if you're comfortable, or you can just kind of stare off forward and kind of down, maybe at a 45-degree angle, whatever is comfortable for you. And then allow your breathing to just slow down, slow and deep. And as I've mentioned before, if you want to add 1 or 2 counts longer on the exhale, you'll connect with that vagus nerve and immediately start to really calm your system. And now we're going to pay attention to your body. But again, there's no judgment, there's no right or wrong. There's no need to change anything. You don't have to do anything at all. You're just going to notice. So starting with the top of the head, just notice the first, like from the head down to maybe below the nose, you can include the ears, the back of the skull, the forehead, your eyebrows, just that whole area, that half of your head. Just pay attention and notice all of those pieces. Notice what you are aware of in your body. Is there any tension, tingling, any pain? Is it totally neutral, relaxed? Just what's going on there. And that's all you're doing is noticing, just giving attention to that area of your body. And then you go and you focus on the lower half of your head. So your mouth, your jaw, maybe your cheeks, if you didn't include those before, and then down into the very start of your neck. And then also at the very back of your head, the base of your skull. And again, you're just noticing, just seeing what you can be aware of. Sometimes it's hard to notice what our body's doing, because we're always in our heads and we're not paying attention. And so when we shift that and start to pay attention, sometimes it takes a little while to get the wheels greased and get used to that. So if you're not noticing anything, that's fine. That's what you're noticing is nothing. It's really neutral, and that's fine. And now you move down, pay attention to your throat, your upper chest, your shoulders, your upper back. And just notice, is you have shoulders up, or is there some tension there? Does it feel really good? Is there a temperature? Is it warm or cool? Again, just noticing. And then you move down to your lower chest, lower abdomen, your mid and low back. Again, just noticing what's going on there. Anything that's worth note. Just allowing it to be whatever it is. If it's pain or tension, it's okay. You just are noticing, no judgment, nothing needs to shift. And now pay attention to the outer part of your shoulders, your upper arms, biceps, triceps, just noticing. See if there's any tension, pain, tingling, cool, warm, whatever it is. And then your focus goes to your lower arms and your hands. Maybe you were holding your hands really tight. Maybe they're sweating. Maybe everything is perfectly comfortable. Maybe you don't notice anything at all. That's all good. Keeping that breath nice and slow and steady. And now you go and focus on your hips and glutes. Just noticing. You can probably pay attention to what it feels like on the seat that you're sitting on. You'll be aware of that sensation. Just noticing. And now moving down to your upper legs, your quads and hamstrings, front and back of the thighs. Just, again, just noticing down to the knees. See if anything feels off or different, or there's a temperature you weren't aware of. And then now focus on your lower legs and your feet. Just looking for anything that is going on, anything you're aware of at all. And then to finish up, keeping that breath nice and slow and steady, you're going to go through just really briefly through the whole body as we just did. And just pay attention. Again, you're not needing to change anything or shift, but just notice if through this process of just being aware, you've been able to recognize or that something has released. So just now scan from the top of the head, through the hole to the bottom of the head, the jaw, and your upper back, your chest, your shoulders, down through your torso, noticing your arms, noticing your hips and glutes and your legs and down to your feet. Just notice if anything that was tense before now is less tense, or if anything has shifted, and there's no right or wrong. Just being aware and getting used to knowing what is going on with your body, being aware of what that feels like. And now you can open your eyes if you'd like to connect, or you can keep your eyes closed or be staring off. And go ahead and just think of something that you're maybe struggling with or having to make a decision on, anything at all that's coming up or that you've been stuck on and thinking of over and over and over, not letting go of. Anything that you have to make some kind of decision on or come to terms with. And now, since you're in this really calm and relaxed place, paying attention to the body, ask yourself those two questions, yay or nay. So this situation, if I do this, if I opt for this, how does that feel? What happens in my body as I consider that? And something might jump right out at you where you're like, oh, my gut just so totally tightened up. Or maybe you realize, oh, I feel totally relaxed and relieved with that. Whatever it is, just notice it, pay attention. And now consider the flip of that. If I decide not to do that, or say no, or opt out, how does that feel? And again, sit with your body, see what happens. And if it's something that's good for you and you're saying opt out, there might be some little, well, that doesn't, oh, I'm super disappointed. But also there's just something it doesn't like, no, that doesn't feel right. Or if it's something that's not good for you, then you probably have that kind of relief feeling somewhere where you just feel your body let go and relax completely, or you realize that there was a knot in your stomach and suddenly, oh, I just felt that release, or something like that. You just pay attention to whatever that sensation is, because that's your indicator of whether that's a good decision or not a good decision, or which direction that you can go. It's sort of like using a pendulum, or having someone do muscle testing on you or something like that. You can do it yourself just by paying attention to that felt sense, paying attention to that body and listening to that intuitive place, that's telling you, yes, no, and being able to listen to that. So I hope that gave you some, a new tool and some things to consider, trying to get out of that head and connecting with that felt sense, that place in your body, and being able to use that as a tool, mechanism for making your decisions, but also just practicing over and over and over, really making that connection so that you can learn to listen to and then trust that inner voice. So thank you for joining me today. Of course, you can catch my other episodes. And in the description, there's a link to my online course. If you're thinking that you really need to do a little bit more, but you're really busy, or you want to do it on your own pace, and you're not really up for coaching or something like that right now, that's an option that's available there. It's totally self-paced, but very, very thorough across the board on all things, affecting highly sensitive. So thanks again for joining. And next month, I will be focusing on all kinds of different things for creating and maintaining a really healthy self-care practice. So I will see you then.